Hey, good morning once again, FCF. We're in the second day of our journey when we're looking at the subject of spiritual dejection. And again, we say spiritual dejection, it's kind of like when you are hit with something that kind of jolts you and traumatizes you spiritually. It's a little bit like despondency. It can drift toward depression. You don't want it to go there. But it's a condition that's not uncommon, but it's a condition that we need to understand, and we need to understand how to rebound from as well. Not everyone does, and that's what we're going to see from some of these scriptures. We're still in the Old Testament. We're going to go to 1 Samuel 25 now. Last week we started with 1 Samuel and the first king of Israel, King Saul. We're moving forward in time just a few years, and so David has come on the scene, and we're all familiar with the story where David kills Goliath, and he's brought into Saul's court. King Saul gives David his wife, Michal, to marry, and God had already chosen David to be the replacement king, but Saul didn't really know this. Samuel the prophet knew it, David knew it, but Saul did not. But Saul started getting suspicious because the people of Israel were so excited about David, and they were cheering in the streets because of his victory over Goliath and so forth. So Saul, in a fit of jealous rage, he tries to spear David inside the palace, tries to kill him. Ultimately, David has to run for his life. And it's the start of a period of time between 4 to 5 years where David is living as a fugitive. Now mind you, he's the chosen king of Israel. God has chosen him. Samuel anointed him. David knew he was the choice, but he had to run for his life for 4 to 5 years. Now we know it was 4 to 5 years. He didn't know how long it was going to be. So while he's on the run, when we come to this portion of Scripture today, 1 Samuel 25, he's been on the run for about 2 years, and he's just kind of with a band of men, about 300 or 400 soldiers that have aligned themselves with him. They're kind of living off the land. They're guarding the herds of the shepherds, and then they just ask for offerings. They have to eat. They're just kind of picking up work any way they can. So at sheep shearing time, they ask this one particularly really wealthy man named Nabal, whose sheep they had been guarding for a long time. They say, hey, can we just get a little offering from you? We just need some food and that kind of thing. Well, when David's men go to Nabal, and Nabal was known to be what Scripture calls a surly guy, kind of a grouchy guy, Nabal just kind of mocks David and his men and says, who are these guys, that I'm supposed to give my belongings to? So when David and his men hear this, and particularly David is incensed. He's angry, and because he knows that he and his men have treated Nabal's cattle very well, his sheep very well. They've guarded them, protected them, and his own men speak up for this too if you read 1 Samuel 25. But finally, David is ready to go to war with this guy, and the word gets brought back to Nabal's wife, whose name is Abigail. Now I'm going to read you this description of Abigail. This is in 1 Samuel chapter 25. You'll get both the description of Nabal and Abigail. 1 Samuel 25 verse 3, it says, his name was Nabal, and his wife's name was Abigail. She was an intelligent and beautiful woman, but her husband, a Calebite, meaning he was from Caleb, you got to go back to Numbers 13 to know about that, was a surly and mean in his dealings. So he's just known to be a cantankerous, difficult guy. So David is now angry, and he's coming with his men to take what was not going to be offered. Verse 18, Abigail hears about this. The servants come and they tell Abigail about it, that David and his men are coming and they are not happy. Abigail lost no time, verse 18. She took 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 dressed sheep, 5 seahs of roasted grain, and 100 cakes of raisins, and 200 cakes of pressed figs, and loaded them on donkeys. And I hope I said that correctly. Donkeys, not donkeys, which is what I'm prone to say. So she goes and she takes this stuff to David. And she begs David, don't bloody your hands with this guy. He's just not worth it. You're going to be the king of Israel someday. Don't have this on your conscience. Verse 30, when the Lord has done for my master every good thing he promised concerning him, and has appointed him leader over Israel, my master, verse 31, will not have on his conscience the staggering burden of needless bloodshed or having avenged himself. And when the Lord has brought my master success, remember your servant. Interesting request from Abigail. So the next thing that happens is Nabal, he's with his men. They're shearing the sheep. It's a big celebratory thing, and I'm reading verse 37. I'm sorry, 36. When Abigail went to Nabal, he was in the household, holding a banquet like that of a king. He was in high spirits and very drunk. She took hold of him, or she told him nothing until daybreak. Then in the morning, when Nabal was sober, his wife told him all the things, and his heart failed him, and he became like a stone. About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal, and he died. So here you have a case where when he gets the news that he came so close to death, David and his men were going to come and kill him. He's there partying, drunk, arrogant, completely unaware of the impending danger. When he hears that his wife had to save his life, it so humiliated him and stunned him that he felt like a fool. And there are those times of spiritual dejection where circumstances converge and we feel completely like a fool. Something we've done, something we haven't done, something we could have done that we didn't, something we shouldn't have done that we did. But we know we've owned the title, fool, and we feel humiliated. We don't know how to undo what we've done. Now this is a severe case that the Lord then steps in and judges this man, because David was God's choice as king and his hand was upon him. But we often have those experiences in life where we just plain make enormous mistakes. And we feel the crushing pain of guilt and shame and humiliation. And it's at seasons like that, I mean, Nabal did not get the chance, but it's the seasons like that when you and I need to know how to humble ourselves before God, to humble ourselves before the people that perhaps we've involved in the ordeal. In this case, had he lived, to humble himself before his wife and his fellow servants, to give apologies where apologies would have been due. He could have apologized to David, apologized to David's men, to the Lord, and so forth. We may have to do all those things and then just walk with humility, but let humility have its good work. Let the spiritual dejection and the pain that it brings, and it does bring pain when we know we have played the fool. It can also work a good work. We can't stay in the guilt for very long. The guilt and the shame, if we stay too long, it'll drive us away from God instead of toward God. Let it push you toward God in His mercy and His love. And then quickly try to get back on our feet. Make her apologize, make her amends, and then get back on our feet and just learn to walk more humbly with God and with the people that He's put in our life. I hope this helps. We'll look tomorrow at a new phase of spiritual dejection.